talk about facial recognition technology. Now, after I posted my last video about what's going on in Australia, I got a lot of good feedback. There was a good discussion going on in the comments section, but I want to discuss one of the key points that a lot of people seem to take issue with. And that was my theory that social distancing is actually just prep for a social credit system. That they want to keep us 6 feet apart so that it's easier for facial recognition technology to pick up on our faces when we're out in public. Now, I'm aware that this sounds crazy. And it sounds crazy because it sounds like it's straight out of a science fiction movie. But let's look at what science fiction is. Now, when a science fiction writer is writing a new book or a movie, they're not just pulling random concepts out of a hat. What they tend to do is look at the current technology that exists in society and follow the natural progression of that technology to paint a picture of where we might end up in the future, usually with a focus on what can go terribly wrong. Now, the purpose of this is something we call predictive programming. Predictive programming was first described by researcher Alan Watt, who defined it as a subtle form of psychological conditioning provided by the media to acquaint the public with planned societal changes to be implemented by our leaders. If and when these changes are put through, the public will already be familiarized with them and will accept them as natural progressions, thus lessening possible public resistance and commotion. Now, this strategy is also a really great way to make a mockery of anyone who even dares to claim that dystopian technological advances are coming our way. Let me give you an example. If I say to someone, "It looks a lot like a social credit system is coming our way," they'll respond with, "Social credit system? What do you think this is? Black Mirror?" But how far-fetched is this idea, really? I'd say it's not that far-fetched at all. Did you know that China is operating under a social credit system as we speak? Take a look at this.
Everywhere she goes, Ouyang Haoyu is followed. What she buys, how she behaves, is tracked and scored to show how responsible and trustworthy she is. It's called the social credit system, and in one version now being tested, a person's reputation is scored on a scale of 350 to 950. It's big data meets Big Brother, expanding how the government monitors, understands, and ultimately controls its 1.4 billion citizens. Thanks to advances in artificial intelligence and facial recognition, and a web of more than 200 million surveillance cameras.
Are people bothered by privacy concerns?
We think the lot of camera keep the safety is really good. We can accept it.
Companies are experimenting with the algorithms to help the government create the new national social credit system. The government also has pilot projects. In one, citizens are required to do hours of unpaid work to get benefits. And scores are docked for things like littering, a messy yard, gossip, even jaywalking. Video of offenders is shown on the local news. And information collectors like Zhou Aini are paid to report on their neighbors. Her quota, 10 entries a month. Like the man who carried a drunk person home. A good deed, she says. Good social credit gets rewarded with perks like cheap loans and travel deals. But a bad score means public shame and worse. Huang Huijun lost a court case and didn't pay. Now he's on a government blacklist. I can't buy airplane or train tickets, he says, and the list goes on. Being discredited makes it hard to get a job or put kids in top schools. The social credit system will go nationwide next year, and few here are willing to criticize it. Something that may pose a risk itself for a bad score and the life that comes with it.
And Australia isn't too far behind. This technology is being rapidly rolled out in major cities in Australia without its citizens' knowledge. Another problem people had with this idea that the social distancing was for facial recognition technology is the fact that they have us all in masks, and that masks would be really bad for picking up on people's faces. Now, aside from the fact that we already know facial recognition works with just the eyes and eyebrows, I just want to make a point that the masks are not permanent. They're just a tool to slowly condition us. They're used to condition us to submit and to comply. They're also used as a tool to get citizens to police each other. And once they come out with the mandatory vaccine, it's going to be a very easy transition from don't forget your mask to don't forget your immunity passport or vaccination certificate. Masks are also a great way to dehumanize homogenize a population, to keep them separated and disconnected. Think about when you go out and approach someone with a mask on. Just a few weeks ago, I saw an article about women being afraid to walk around outside because of aggressive eye contact. I know that's ridiculous, but everybody does look super aggressive with a mask on. With all that being said, I want to leave you guys with a question. I want you to think about what your personal boundaries are when it comes to all these COVID measures. We know from history and we know from our current situation that if you give the government an inch, they will take a mile. So all I'm asking is that you think right now about what your personal boundary is, and then make the decision that no matter what happens, nobody under any circumstances can cross that boundary. This is something that we learn about in relationships. We learn that if you're willing to let someone cross your boundary under extreme or certain circumstances, then they were never your boundaries to begin with. What would be crossing the line for you? When it comes to masks, where's your line? Would you be willing to wear a mask in your own home? Would you be willing to put a mask on your baby? What about when it comes to privacy? Are you okay with being tracked wherever you go? Are you okay with a digital identification implant that will hold all forms of personal identification, including your medical records and all of your financials? Are you okay with the social credit system being scored on your everyday behavior? Are you okay with that score dictating where you can go, where you can eat, where you can travel? These are questions we have to think about. So I'm gonna leave you guys with that. Let me know in the comments below what your personal boundary is, and we'll get a good discussion going. Bye.